Good afternoon, everyone. If you could take a very short moment and join me as we take a moment of prayer and invoke the Spirit of the Lord amongst us. Would you stand, please? Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening with hearts full of gratitude for this opportunity to gather and share knowledge. Thank you for bringing us together for this panel discussion where we seek to learn and grow in wisdom about navigating the digital world safely and responsibly. We ask for your guidance and blessings upon our moderator, panelists, and all who will contribute to this event. Grant them clarity of thought and the ability to share their insights effectively. May their words enlighten and inspire us to make us smarter, informed choices in our digital interactions. Bless everyone present, both here and online. May we all leave this session empowered with understanding and a renewed sense of responsibility to protect ourselves and others in this ever-evolving digital age. All this and more we ask in your name. Amen. Honorable Veronica Dorset Hector, Deputy Premier and Minister of Infrastructure, Labour, Transportation, Energy and Ecclesiastical Affairs. Other government officials, panelists, moderator, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. On behalf of the ICT unit, it is my pleasure to welcome you to this insightful session as part of ICT Week 2024. Under the theme, Navigating the Digital Age, Safety, Skills, and Smart Choices. Tonight's panel discussion titled Cyber Safety in Montserrat, Protection, Prevention, and Policy promises to be an engaging and empowering exploration of a topic that impacts us all. We are privileged to have with us this evening 3 vibrant, talented, and knowledgeable young men who can be deemed leaders in their respective fields. It's inspiring to see youth at the forefront of critical conversations like these, demonstrating their expertise and knowledge to building a safer digital environment for all. Their participation tonight underscores the invaluable role that young people can play in shaping Montserrat's digital future. The importance of this session cannot be overstated. Over the past year, we've seen an alarming rise in scams targeting our community, most recently through platforms like WhatsApp. These incidents have disrupted lives, eroded trust, and highlighted the urgent need for greater awareness and education. In response, we felt it essential to dedicate this year's session to equipping our community with the knowledge and tools to navigate the digital world safely. Every year during ICT Week, we aim to host sessions like these to educate and empower the public, whether it's discussing emerging trends, addressing pressing issues, or exploring advancements in technology. These forums are designed to spark meaningful conversations and enhance digital literacy across Montserrat. Tonight's panelists will each offer unique perspectives, such as the role local authorities and law enforcement have in helping the public identify scams and securing their personal information, providing practical advice on safeguarding sensitive information, sharing tools and habits that are accessible to individuals and organizations alike, and taking us into the mind of a hacker, helping us to better understand their methods and strategies to better protect ourselves. Following 2 presentations, we'll have a dynamic discussion that includes questions and concerns from you, everyone here in the audience. This is your opportunity to engage directly with these experts and deepen your understanding of cyber safety. As we embark on this discussion, I encourage everyone to actively listen, ask questions, and take away actionable insights. Together, we can make strides toward a digitally safer Montserrat. Thank you for joining us this evening. Let's make this session a memorable and impactful one. Enjoy the discussion. And without further ado, I introduce our moderator for today's proceedings. Ms. Scintillary is a born Montserratian who has returned to her native island 4 years ago to give back. She is a compassionate and dynamic professional with a diverse career that spans counseling, radio hosting, and advocacy. She holds degrees in psychology and African American studies from an accredited university in upstate New York. As a skilled counselor, she offers a warm and empathic approach, helping individuals navigate life's challenges with support and guidance. With a natural gift for communication, she also excels as a moderator for the local teen gospel competitions, as well as facilitating, engaging, and thought-provoking discussions on various platforms, ensuring that every voice is heard. As a radio host for the last 3.5 years of MSS Embracing Quality Education, she brings a unique blend of information and insight to the airwaves, creating a welcoming space for guest panelists and listeners to connect, learn, and grow. Passionate about children's advocacy, she dedicates much of her time advocating for the well-being and rights of children. With a mission to empower and uplift, she is a trusted voice and a steadfast advocate for those in need. She loves to interact and engage with people and is eager to offer words of kindness. Help me welcome our moderator for this evening's proceeding, Ms. Vandina Sinclair.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. On November 25th, the Deputy Premier, the Honorable Mrs. Dorset Hector, gave the ICT Minister's speech via the nation's radio station, ZJB Radio. As quoted, this year's ICT Week of Activities has a theme: navigating the digital age, safety skills, and smart choices. This theme is a timely reminder of the role that technology plays in shaping our world and the importance of using it wisely, skillfully, and securely, end quote. Thus, tonight's cyber safety panel discussion will be focusing on the theme, and that will be cyber safety in Montserrat, protection, prevention, and policy. Topics will include the latest cyber threats facing individuals and businesses here in Montserrat and the importance of preventive measures like cybersecurity, education, and the policies needed to create a secure digital environment for all. Thank you, Deputy Premier, Mrs. Dorset Hector. Ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to introduce our esteemed panelists. We have Mr. Karandre Fernandez, Mr. Nish Brown, and Mr. Kasim Bilinji, who will make tonight's presentations based on the theme. First up, we will have Mr. Karandre Fernandez. Karandre Fernandez was enlisted to the Royal Montserrat Police Service, RMPS, on the 1st June 2016 as a police constable. In 2017, he was attached to the Financial and Analysis Unit within the RMPS. He was recently transferred to the Montserrat Financial Intelligence Unit as a financial investigator. His professional training includes financial investigations, open source investigation, and intelligence gathering and analysis from REDTRAC, also known as Red Track, which is the Caribbean Regional Drug Law Enforcement Training Center, and CFATF, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. Detective Constable Fernandez has completed a 6-week secondment at St. Vincent and the Grenadines Financial Intelligence Unit. He fancies himself as being open-minded, self-motivated, and a good team player. He enjoys serving others, especially the Montserrat community. A budding photographer and graphic designer, an entrepreneur, and a lifelong learner. Tonight, his topic will be to present how local authorities and law enforcement can help. On that theme, he will offer guidance on how these entities can assist the public in identifying cyber scams and securing their personal information. This builds upon previous discussions, offering attendees practical advice on recognizing red flags, understanding the evolving nature of scams, and knowing the appropriate steps to take if targeted. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Carandre Fernandez.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I will be presenting on how to identify scams, online scams, as well as telling you guys about how law enforcement can protect our community from online threats such as scams or fraud. So I'm here on behalf of the Financial Intelligence Unit, and we're responsible for investigating money laundering, terrorist financing, Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I am representing the Financial Intelligence Unit. We're responsible for investigating money laundering, terrorist financing, cyber crimes, as well as fraud. We protect the community by detecting, analyzing, and also preventing financial crimes. One of the equipment or tools that we used is the POCA, the Procedure Crime, as well as the Penal Code. Previously, we did not have legislation that defined the fraud in Montserrat, but as of this year, we recently have amendment to the Penal Code, which give us the ability to have a clear definition of fraud, as well as points to prove. So the amendment came in July of this year, which is the amendment to the Penal Code, which is Section 246, which outlines the definition for fraud by false representation, fraud by disclosing false information, and also fraud by abuse of power. So this legislation now assists us to better be able to investigate fraud and help us to prevent the fraud from occurring. Some of the ways in which we try to prevent fraud from occurring is by education, and we will do this via training that we provide for law enforcement, as well as training for the general public. So today, or this afternoon, I will be presenting on identifying online scams. The objective of today's session is to give you, the general public, or the Montserrat community, knowledge in which you could use to identify online scams, as well as avoid becoming a victim to online scams. I'm so confident in presenting today's topic because I also am a victim of online scams. I was scammed once before via my credit card. So I was surfing a website and I was not aware that the website was a fake website. So one night when I woke up, I got a text message from my credit card company saying that there was a withdrawal or a charge of about 246 US. I was not aware of the charge because the company that I saw was from, I think it's Northern Ireland, and I didn't remember making any purchases from that merchant. So I went back to sleep, then I woke up because I was gonna deal with it the following morning. So when I woke up, I realized that there was an additional charge of 100 plus US. So when I look at my card, I realized that all the funds that were on my credit card was gone. And what the scammers actually did is that they tried to take a small amount, then they tried to take another amount, but because my card was maxed, they were not able to keep taking out the funds. All right? So that was one of the first time I was scammed. Luckily, I was using a credit card, so the credit card was insured. I was able to go to the bank and file a report, and the bank actually refund me a few months later. All right, so I'm here speaking about scam. I was scammed before, and I was a financial investigator at that time. All right, so It could happen to anybody. So one of the reasons why I would share this with everybody is so that you won't feel like you can't share those type of experience with other persons, or you might feel like you don't want to report it because you're ashamed. All right. So it's nothing to be embarrassed about. This could happen to anybody. All right. So. Okay, so there are several types of scams that can occur online, and scams is basically fraud, all right? So if somebody commits scams, the perpetrator is in Montserrat, they will basically be charged for fraud, all right? So some types of fraud are phishing, and phishing is where you receive emails that will try to trick you into giving your financial information or your personal information, such as your bank account, your passwords, or even your social security number, all right? So that it could be used for some sort of fictitious activity or some criminal activity. We also have online scams, online fake stores where you could go online, you could purchase something, but the item that you purchase, you would not receive the item, or you might receive something looking like the item, but not actually the item. I've seen cases where someone ordered something and they never received it. They keep receiving tracking information from one country to the next, but it never ever got to Montserrat. All right, there's investment scam where persons are offered fake investment, so you offered low risk but high return, and I will go much in depth into this type of scam. There's romance scam where scammers would speak to persons that are vulnerable or looking to build some sort of relationship, and they would entice that person, maybe sending them nude photos or even promising them things. But at the end of the day, what they would do is they would come up with some sort of situation in which they would need funds. So they would say, okay, their grandparents got in an accident, so they need funds to pay for the medical bills, etc. We also have lottery scams or sweepstakes, which I will go in depth with. We have employment scam. We know persons are constantly looking for extra income. Some persons may seek extra income from online jobs. All right, so some of these online jobs that they get, that the fake online jobs that they may get, would ask them to send 50 US for them to print out a ID card for them or to complete paperwork for the application process. All right. So we also have charity scam where there's fake GoFundMes where persons might be raising funds for terrorism or any other type of illicit activities, and they may ask you to support a GoFundMe, but it may come on the front of they're doing it for some sort of charitable cause, whether it's for animals or it's for persons who don't have food, etc. All right. We also have compromised email accounts where email communications are intercepted, and this is done mainly when there's some major transaction is being done. So if you're communicating to close a deal where you will be wiring a large amount of money, what they would do, they would intercept that conversation, and then on the latter part of it, when you're about to do a transaction, they would send email to the person that you're communicating with the fake financial details, but they would use an email similar to your email. So if your email is johndoe01, they might have an email saying johndoe001. So whenever you look at the email, you might overlook that email address and you wire that funds. One of the type of scams I would like to go into based on the reports that we would have got is phishing, all right? So phishing, some of the characteristics of phishing are emails, messaging, asking for personal information. So you receive an email asking you to basically provide your information so that they could assist you, all right? Links to websites, so emails with links, they might ask you to urgently click the links, all right? And if you don't click the links, they might say that there's some sort of penalty that you might incur or endure, all right? Also, urgent language that might create panic. So they might have in the subject of the email that they send to you urgent, meaning that you need to act or you need to do some sort of urgent action so that you could prevent any further endangerment or any further penalization. So an example of this is an email that you might need to validate your user interface, or even an email that says that you have infringed on someone's trademark rights. All right. So when you see an email like this, you might think to yourself that you need to take some sort of action. All right, and they might say, like I mentioned before in the subject, they might have urgent. All right. So you might feel to yourself, okay, I need to click on the link and I need to get this sorted because you possibly infringe on someone's trademark right, all right? But it's important to take a step back whenever you receive these emails and try to recognize or try to be skeptical about the content of the email. So some of the things that you could look for is the email address. You could check to see where the email address that the email is coming from, read the subject. You could also look for grammatical error, all right? And if the email also contain any sort of threats or any type of urgency, you try to avoid participating or being urgent with it, all right? So what they would do, they would also put a link. So it's important that you avoid clicking these links. It's important that you try to verify the source. So if you feel like you need to act on it urgent, you try to verify the source. Maybe you could take out the email address, search it on YouTube, see if it's valid. You could also avoid the email at all costs, so you just do not reply to it or you do not click any link. If it's something very serious, more than likely it would come back to you again, or somebody more than likely would give you a phone call at the end of the day, all right? Also, something to note is that you're receiving an email from somebody saying that you have a critical maintenance update that is needed from like Nokia when you have a Samsung phone. That's not really practical. So, you have to be questioning the emails that you get if you have any type of suspicion or gut feeling that it's a scam. The next type of scam that I would like to go through is an investment scam. We typically live in a world where there's constant talks about investment and everybody's trying to gain an extra income. So persons are constantly thinking about investment. So it's important that we know how to identify investment scams. One of the main catch about investment scams is that they offer a high risk, a high reward for low risk. And anybody who knows about investment will know that if you're risking high, you would have high return, all right? So if you're risking low, then there will be low return. So the fact that they're promising a high return from low risk is something that you would need to take into consideration and be more skeptical about, look into it and try to figure out what's happening, what is the reason for this, or even ask someone if they have ever heard about it before, all right? They would tend to pressure you to invest quickly, so the scammers would encourage you to invest within a window or time period, because if you don't invest within this short time period, this day or two, you would miss out on the opportunity, all right? And it's not good to rush into an investment. At the end of the day, investments are like a bus, so investments might pop up now, they might go away, then they might come back, so there's no need to rush. All right, lack of clear information about the investment. So if it's an investment, it's important that the information is clear. All right, an example is an online ad of a crypto investment guaranteeing 1178% return. All right, so I'm not saying that cryptocurrency is any type of scammer. So cryptocurrency is, you could invest in cryptocurrency, but a cryptocurrency investment that is guaranteeing some sort of return like 1,178% return is basically something that you would need to consider and say, okay, this must be some sort of scam, all right, investment scams. because the way how crypto work is you invest it, but based on the market price at a specific time, it could fluctuate based on the news, etc. So there's no guarantee that you might invest in crypto and then it's gonna skyrocket to 1,178% return. All right, so that's something to be skeptical about. And some of example of how these investment might come as a pop-up on a website saying, congratulations, you have been validated to make your first investment. And basically they're saying that you're chosen, you're handpicked because you're validated, all right? And our excellent finance team has already prepared a lucrative investment plan for you, and we can easily help you get started. On average, our clients are seeing a positive growth of 178% on their first Bitcoin investment. All right, so this sounds very unrealistic, and what is the ad? That they have handpicked you to say that you have been selected. All right, so if you see these type of things, it's important to be skeptical and basically see it as a red flag that you should ask question, whether you ask your brother or your sister about if they've ever heard about it, or if they think it's something legit, etc. All right. One of the things that we have realized is that whenever persons receive these type of opportunity, they are very hesitant in telling someone, because they're thinking to themselves, if they tell somebody that they're going to do this investment, they're going to get this return, they would have to share the funds, all right? So they want to keep all the funds to themselves. So you avoid telling anybody, and you make the investment without doing your research or getting a second opinion. Third type of scam, which is one of the most popular, is the lottery and sweepstakes scam. And this is characterized by you receiving some sort of notification telling you that you have won a prize, and you have to pay some sort of funds or some sort of fee to claim that. All right? This type of notification comes out of the blue. You might have an iPhone, but you still receive a text message saying that you have won a Samsung promotion and so forth. All right? So an example of this is someone receiving a text message, and they said they would have won a foreign lottery and they need to send funds to process the winnings. And I'm sure that a lot of you might have received those type of text message via WhatsApp. And as of recently, we have realized that persons are no longer just using foreign numbers, they're using local numbers, because we had a report where someone used a local number to text someone in Montserrat. So it's someone you know texting you, asking you about if you heard about this winning, etc. All right. So already you have some sort of trust in that person that you know. All right. And based on the fact that you verify the number, the WhatsApp number, you're saying this must be real. All right. But it's important to seek advice and seek a second opinion. So this is one of the most prevalent type of scams, and they would basically reach out to you and ask you tell you that you have won 900,000 US and a Samsung S22 Ultra, you know, the latest type of phone, and they would tend to say, okay, you need to pay a specific amount to claim your winnings. All right. However, whenever you pay this amount, they will basically try to lure you into paying more. So they might ask you for $500 this time. The next time might be $1,000. Once they realize that you're constantly sending the funds, then they would come up with different excuses so that they could continue to get more money out of you. All right. So understanding the evolving nature of scams. So scammers try to exploit the current events or situations that are occurring around the world. In 2020, we had the pandemic. So those times they use scams relating to masks, the masks, the protective gears. They use other type of scams relating to the vaccine, etc., to try to get funds out of persons. All right, and in say 2022, 2021, there was Ukraine, so persons 20 persons would do GoFundMe asking for funds to assist with Ukraine, but when you send those funds to assist, the money is not being used for the purpose in which they advertise. All right? And let's say we're now in the week of Thanksgiving, Black Friday, etc., then you would see more scams on Black Friday and sales of items, etc. So depending on the current events that are occurring, the scammers would adapt to that and try to create scams that have that type of theme. So they would use new technology, so they would use AI technology to basically use to communicate, because now if a scammer have no knowledge in a specific area, they could use AI to communicate, so they could probably have a chat open with you. So once you reply something, they would get a reply from ChatGPT. Some of the communications are that they have with persons that they're scamming is very specific to them. In one of the scams that I would have dealt with, they were speaking about who is our premier. So they would say, okay, your premier is this person. So they would know the premier at the time. And basically, they would know stuff like what's happening in the news or how much the population is. So they would use their research, they would do some research on Google or AI to know what's happening in Montserrat. So when they speak to you, they would be speaking with some sort of sense that they know who you are and they know what's happening in Montserrat. So you would have that type of trust for them. All right? There's shifting from mobile to mobile and social media. If you have like Facebook pages, etc., the scammers are now they're now hacking or using compromised Facebook accounts to message. So you might receive a message from your friend asking you if you have heard about this grant, or you might receive a message on your Facebook business page saying that you would have basically breached or infringed on some sort of copyright, and you need to reply urgently. And what they would do, they would have up like a profile photo of like Facebook, so you might just look at it and think, well, okay, it's coming from Facebook. So also another one is scams emerging from different technologies. So whenever new technology emerge, there's new scams. So maybe like a year and a half ago, we had NFTs, which are digital tokens. So there were a lot of scams coming out with NFTs. And as technology keep evolving, the scammers try to come out with new scams. So how to spot these online scams? You could know that you are basically interacting with a scam by unsolicited emails. So you receive an email or a message about winning or some sort of interface upgrade that you have no knowledge about. You didn't solicit this type of email about an investment, but randomly you just receive an email saying that, hey, you could invest in this and get this large return. It sounds too good to be true. In the case of sweepstakes, you won 900,000 US. Sounds so good, and it sounds too good to be true. So another red flag is the request for personal and financial information. If the person that they're saying that you win something is requesting that you send your bank account information or your password to your banking app, etc., that's definitely a red flag. Poor grammar and spelling during communication. Whenever the scammers are texting, they tend to have poor grammar or poor English skills, because most of them sometimes come from Africa, etc. They're very hesitant to call you. In case of WhatsApp, they don't want to send a voice note, they don't want to video call, but they're texting all the time, and they keep on making grammatical errors. So some things that you could do is to basically protect yourself or identify whether or not it's a scam, verify whether or not it's a scam. You could check your URL. When you're searching on a website that is secure, you would see like a lock at the top. You could research the company or the person online. So if somebody messaged you saying that they're the CEO of Samsung, you could do a Google search. If you receive an email, you search up the company, like I mentioned before. You search the email address online and see if there's any information. Because most of the times, if you search an email address that is fictitious, you would have some sort of result that is related to scam. All right? So you could use secure payment methods. So instead of using your debit card directly or your credit card directly, you could use payment methods such as PayPal or Stripe as a middleman so that you could protect yourself as well. Something that I recommend that persons should consider doing is use credit card instead of debit card. A debit card would access the funds that is on your account. So if you have $1,000, it would access the $1,000, but a credit card would access just the limit that you have with the bank as a loan, etc. Right? And in the case of a credit card is insured. So in the event that something happened or a transaction is placed or authorized without your permission, then you more than likely would get a refund based on that. So protecting yourself, use strong passwords. Try to ensure that your password has characters, letters, and numbers as well. Enable two-factor authentication. So there are apps that you could use to add an extra layer of security to accessing your accounts or your banking information. You could consider downloading one of these apps, and they would give you like a pass number or passcode to enter so that you could get in. After you enter your password, you could enter the pass number. All right, be skeptical about every opportunity that you get online. All right, I would say that if you receive a opportunity from a friend or a text message from a friend giving you some sort of opportunity, I would recommend that you make a phone call and talk to the person, via a voice call or a direct call so that you could verify if they're actually, that person trying to communicate with you. Update your software whenever you have any updates for your phone or your computer. You ensure that you update it so that it would actually update the security system that the type of computer you have in place. All right. So report all scams. Whenever somebody is scammed, like I mentioned before, some people tend to avoid reporting it, and this is because they feel embarrassed that they would have been scammed. Because persons being scammed, it kind of give the message that you basically don't have knowledge of how to use this, etc. And some people don't want to fall in that category. But we all could be vulnerable in some sort of way, whether it's we're in a financial squeeze and we probably think that is an opportunity to make an investment and we go forward, or we could be just surfing the internet normal and we just happen to bounce on a website that is fake, and we click a link and we put in our card number, etc., and our information is shared. All right? So I'll now go into a case study of a real case that happened in Montserrat and that I would have dealt with. So the scenario or the case is an individual who is individually received a text message via WhatsApp claiming he or she won a Samsung smartphone S20 and $800,000 in a Samsung worldwide promotion. Now, coincidentally, the person who we're speaking about, they would have bought a Samsung phone recently, so to them it seemed real because they probably purchased a Samsung phone maybe like say 2 months ago or 3 months ago, right? So they got in communication with the person and they started finding out how they could claim their funds. They receive information that they need to send funds to clear or to claim their fund or to process it. So what they did is they sent a small amount, so I think around 500 US, and the scammer received that, and then the scammer came up with another excuse. So they sent another 500 US, scammer came up with another excuse, sent another. So the funds that were being sent constantly increased. So it went from 500 to 1,000. And whenever they realize that the person is comfortable with sending 1,000, then they will go to 1,500 US. All right, so I think it went from 15 to about 2,000 US at the highest point. But what happened is that the person did multiple transactions over a period of 12 months, right? and the total transaction, the total amount amounted to 94,000 EC dollars, all right? And this was done over multiple months, probably about 18 months or so. And one of the things that we realized is that the individual didn't want to share it with their family members, all right? Because, like I mentioned before, they want to keep all the funds to themselves. 800,000 US, they wanted to keep that to themselves. So they didn't share that information, and they constantly sent funds. Now, one of the things that might happen sometimes when you send funds at one institution, you eventually become blocked. So you might be blocked from an institution. But in this case, what the person did was they got blocked from one institution, then they went to the second institution, then they got blocked, then they went to the third institution, and then the third institution is where they actually refused to do the transaction, and then this is where he became more conscious of the situation, and then they decided that they're gonna report it. All right? So this is a case where somebody is vulnerable, whether it's they're in a financial situation and they're trying to make more money, or they just bought a Samsung phone and they receive a text message thinking that they won, or they're at an age where they might not know about the new technology and the new types of scams, etc. All right? So one of the things about funds being sent, especially like a wire transfer, and the time span in which it is reported, is that if we do a wire transfer today, and the report is made 2 months from now, it's very difficult to actually retrieve the funds or to have communication with the corresponding banks to try and stop the funds from being withdrawal, etc. So it's important to report them as soon as possible so that we could take some sort of action that might actually cause the funds to be retrieved, all right? Because some of the trends that we have seen with scammers is that what they would do, they would ask for the funds to be sent to someone in a specific country, but what they would do, they would have that person under duress, so they would threaten that person to receive it, ask them to receive it, and they would threaten them by saying that they would use Obia on them, etc. Because I've seen somebody send me like a video of them sending like a chicken or so and say this chicken, they go hurt the chicken and they go hurt them, etc. So what they do is they tend to use persons to facilitate the transaction. So sometimes the funds might be sent to the UK, and then within a few minutes the funds is sent to a different location, all right? So it's important that we anytime we encounter this type of situation, we report them immediately, all right? What we could do as a FIU is we could have international cooperation with other FIU in situations where we're just reacting. If the perpetrator is in other country, we could ask the authorities in that country to investigate that side of it, because the perpetrator is not in Montserrat and it's that country. In the other country, they would help us to investigate and to possibly bring that perpetrator to the court system. However, if somebody has transferred funds, if it's reported quickly, then we're able to communicate to the bank, etc., and try to see if we could slow it down, or if it's something like Western Union, then we could communicate and hopefully, prevent the transaction from being completed on the other end. All right, so it's important to report these type of events as soon as possible. So if you're a victim, what can you do? You could stop the communication with the scammer immediately, and then you could report it to the local authorities. So you could report it to the Royal Montserrat Police Service, the Financial Service Commission, and the FIU. And these are all competent authorities, so if you report it to any one of them, we will be in touch with each other, and we will try to move forward with what necessary action that we could, so that we could help to detect the perpetrator, or, try to save the funds from going through, depending on when it's reported. All right. Some contact information for these agencies are on the PowerPoint presentation, so you can use any one of these telephone numbers or email addresses if you're making a report. And that's the end of my presentation. Okay, so we'll have questions afterwards, after the other panelists has done their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. That was quite enlightening. And I'm sure all of us in here, do we have digital devices? I'm sure all of us have tablets or personal computers or phones. So tonight's presentations will allow us, if we have not been victim, to not become a victim. Permit me, before we continue, to acknowledge the presence of the Minister of Agriculture, Land and Housing, the Honorable Mr. John Osborne. Welcome, sir. We're happy to have you. The next presenter is Mr. Nish Brown. Mr. Nish Brown is a forward-thinking 29-year-old leader with a strong background in technology. As the CEO of Fourth Dimension, he leads the development of innovative technology solutions that drive digital transformation across various sectors. In his capacity as a systems analyst at the Department of Information Technology and e-government services, Mr. Brown plays a key role in improving government operations by implementing information systems that enhance efficiency and transparency. A graduate of the University of the West Indies, Mr. Brown holds a bachelor's degree in computer science with a minor in economics. His unique blend of technical expertise and economic understanding informs his strategic approach to problem solving and decision making. In addition to his professional achievements, Mr. Brown is committed to empowering young people as the male CARICOM Youth Ambassador for Montserrat. He is an advocate for youth development, focusing on financial independence, entrepreneurship, and equipping the next generation with the skills and tools they need to thrive in an evolving world. Through workshops, mentorship, and advocacy, Mr. Brown continues to inspire and support youth in realizing their potential. His topic tonight will be on practical advice on protecting sensitive information, essential tools, techniques, and habits for both organizations and individuals to safeguard their digital information, with an emphasis on small-scale actionable measures the public can adopt. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Nish Brown.
Good evening, everybody. You know, as I listened to my bio, it made me feel a sense of humbleness, and it made me appreciate and reflect on the growth that I've had over the last few years. If you asked me to do something like this 5 years ago, the answer would definitely be no. But thank God for growth. Now, I'll be presenting on safeguarding your information using good cybersecurity practices, but I would like your permission to make this presentation a little bit interactive. Do I have it? Yes? So that means you'll participate. Okay, great. Now, the first thing that we have to establish is what exactly is cybersecurity? What exactly is cybersecurity? Well, cybersecurity is the practice of protecting systems, networks, and programs from digital attacks. Now, if you're reading this slide, you'd realize that I missed one word. Now, I missed that word intentionally, and it's individuals. Because sometimes we think that cybersecurity only has to do with systems and programs, but it also has to do with individuals. As a matter of fact, individuals is the most key aspect of protecting against cybersecurity threats. Now, what are some of the types of attacks that we might face? Some of the types of attacks are phishing, and my good colleague, Mr. Fernandez, went through phishing in detail, ransomware, malware. But of course, these are just the major types. There are also other types, for example, spoofing and password attacks. Now, why should we be concerned about cybersecurity? You know, we live in a world where cyber attackers are getting more interested in our personal information. As a matter of fact, a lot of big businesses make a huge deal about our data. If you look at Facebook, when you sign up for Facebook, you have to agree to several conditions about giving away some of your data to them so that they can give you targeted ads. Now, is our data safe? Do you believe our data is safe? No? Don't you think that these big institutions are concerned about our safety? Or are they concerned about the bottom line first and foremost? You know, it's something that we have to think about. Now, identity information is available for theft, especially with the advent of social media. I just spoke about Facebook. Now, a person said that Facebook is for older persons. The younger persons now, they use TikTok or Threads or X or Instagram. And, you know, our data is becoming increasingly available. Data breaches can also result in financial loss, such as unauthorized purchases or drained accounts. Of course, it's not just software attacks. They also attack us directly through things like cyberbullying, online predators, and inappropriate content exposure. It's a really, really scary role out there, so we really have to be careful. And of course, on the business end, it can lead to disruptions. Now, let me just spit out a few statistics out there. And you know, these statistics are really interesting to me. If you read the first point, you'd see that cybercrime is projected to cost the world $10.5 trillion annually by 2025. When you think about a number like trillion, what do you think about? It's a really, really, really big number. If anybody ever asks you to count to 10,000, you might give up halfway, much less. But you know, it's a real money-making thing, and the attackers are making a very lucrative business out of cyber threats and cyber attacks. The average time to identify and contain a data breach is around 287 days. Now, if you do the maths, that's around 9.5 months. So from the time the attacker targets you and gets into your system, sometimes they sit there, and you don't even know. And they're there for, you know, upwards of 9 months. They're sitting down, learning your personal information and how they can best attack you. So it's really scary, but don't be afraid. I'll give you some tips on how you can prevent these kind of things. Let me not try to sound too somber. Now, 1 in 10 people fall victim to phishing attacks annually. It might not seem like a lot, but 1 in 10 persons is a lot. Imagine there are a certain amount of persons in here right now. Imagine if 1 in every 10 of you fall victim to attack. That's very disruptive to our society. The average person loses $2,000 per phishing attack. And like I said, my very capable colleague, Mr. Fernandez, would have given some of those scenarios where persons fell victim to this kind of attack. 64% of people use the same password for multiple accounts. Are we guilty of that? I myself am guilty of that, so I can't even be too hard. 91% of teenagers actively use social media, making them prime targets for cybercrime. Mobile malware increased by 54% last year, targeting Android and iOS devices. Of course, we're using more mobile phones today. That's why it's important that we need to make our websites responsive to mobile devices, because more and more people are using mobile devices rather than like my laptop here. 95% of breaches are caused by human error. I remember I left out that word individual earlier. You see how many percentage of breaches are caused by human error? A very, very large amount. That means that the weakest part of every system are us, the humans. Now, what are some common mistakes we make? The very first thing is kind of what we highlighted a while ago, weak passwords. Now, the statistics show that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 still remains one of the most common passwords used. It might be surprising, but it's true. The statistics are there to prove it. Now, hackers can have a very, very, very easy time targeting you when you have these kind of weak passwords. So if you do have a password like this, I would implore you, now, as it is in there, to go and change it. Falling for phishing scams. For example, a fake email from Netflix asking for users to verify their accounts, leading to stolen credit card details. For example, I have below here account security Netflix. But if you really look at the email, it's not an email from Netflix. The email says info@netflixmedium1234.com. So it's important to not only look at who is sending the email, but the email that is coming from. Sharing too much information. And I wish I had more young people here, but I hope that they're listening online. But sharing your information online is not always a good thing. Sometimes we overshare our information. When we go on our trips, we post exactly where we are, what we're doing, what we're eating. You know, it's kind of cool to have our lifestyle so other persons can see what we're doing, but it's also a threat to our cybersecurity. So we need to be kind of conscious of the things that we're posting online and make sure that we don't overshare. Yielding to ransomware. Now, this is one that's very personal to me because, like my good brother, Mr. Fernandez, I've experienced this myself. I remember when I was not so, well, I'm still young, but probably like 10 years ago when I was younger, I was using this service called Aries. It's a torrenting service. And, you know, I was downloading movies. I know better now that I should purchase movies rather than download them for free. But I was downloading a movie, and when I downloaded the movie, I double-clicked on the movie, and it installed something on my laptop. Now, my laptop shut off immediately, and when I tried to turn it back on, I saw a message saying that I should send 2 Bitcoin to a certain address, and if I don't, it's going to encrypt all my files, and I'll never get back all my images and stuff like that. But it's important not to yield to this ransomware, because if I'm an attacker, and I attack you, and I tell you, send me $10,000, if you do send me the $10,000, what do you think I'm going to do next? Ask for more, exactly. So as Mr. Fernandez said, you need to reach out to the relevant authorities for assistance. Don't be too ashamed because all of us are vulnerable at some point. None of us are above mistakes. So reach out to the relevant authorities. Not updating your software. This is also key because sometimes we see those updates come up and we're like, let me close out this annoying. And we keep delaying these updates. But really and truly, these updates have key security patches that can help protect you from these cybersecurity attacks. And sometimes when your software is outdated, it's very, very easy for attackers to target you. And, you know, if you understand the psychology of attackers don't typically go to persons that they have a difficult time targeting. They go to who they think are easy targets. So you might think that you're not worth attacking, but if you make yourself an easy target, they will attack you at some point or the other. Now, Mr. Fernandez gave an example, and I hope that everybody was paying attention because I'm going to give you a little quiz. Wait, not yet, not yet. Let me not get ahead of myself. Actually, in the interest of time, let's do it. So if you look at this email, the subject of the email says, urgent, confirm your eligibility for tax refund. This is coming from the government of Montserrat Tax Department, and I have my good colleague from the Inland Revenue Department in the building. So, and it says, dear citizen, we are pleased to inform you that you are eligible for a tax refund of 1,500 EC dollars under the new government relief initiative. And of course, we have a new government, so it sounds real, ain't it? However, our records indicate that your banking details need to be updated to process the payment. To claim your refund, please complete the verification process by clicking the link below. Failure to respond within 48 hours will result in forfeiture of your refund. If you have any questions, please contact our support team by replying to this email. Thank you for your prompt attention. Sincerely, Montserrat Inland Revenue Department. Now, what are the red flags in this email? Anybody? Right, so I got 2 answers. I got 2 answers just now. The first person said the email address. If you look at the email address, it says gov-montserrat@taxrefund.mni. Now, that doesn't sound like a legit government email address, right? And then the second thing I heard was the urgency. Yeah, they're demanding that you do this within 48 hours. Any other red flags? Right, so that's the urgency again, the failure to respond within 48 hours. Uh-huh. Right. And then somebody at the front here said, dear citizen, they're not addressing you directly, they didn't address you by your first or last name. And then somebody else in front here said that, sorry, can you repeat what you said? Right, the government is asking you for your banking details when they should already have it, because how did they pay you anyway? Right, any others? It's different departments. Right, so the from says Government of Montserrat Tax Department, and it sincerely says Montserrat Inland Revenue Department. You see, these inconsistencies are what you kind of have to look for. And Mr. Fernandez mentioned other things like grammatical errors and stuff like that. So thank you for participating. I can see that you guys were paying attention. Now, how do we protect ourselves from these cybersecurity threats? Remember I said that I wasn't going to just leave you on a bad note. I was going to tell you how you can protect yourself and take steps to protect yourself. Firstly, you have to use strong passwords and password managers. Anybody here use a password manager? One person? Two persons? Right, so basically what a password manager does, it creates a complex passwords for the different applications that you use, whether it's Facebook or if you're using Outlook or whatever. It creates passwords, complex passwords for them, and it stores them for you and encrypts them so that you don't have to remember it, but at the same time, you have a very strong password that is not easily broken by brute force attacks. So some of these tools are stuff like Bitwarden, 1Password, that's a popular one, LastPass, and one that I don't have listed here is Google Password, although I have my own problem with Google Password, but password managers are better than not having a strong password. I could tell you that for a fact. The other thing that you can do is two-factor authentication. Anybody here uses two-factor authentication? Yes. And there are certain services that we don't have a choice. We have to use two-factor authentication. And this just adds an extra layer of protection. So when you type in your password, it's going to then ask you for something we call an OTP, which is a one-time password. Normally, you can download like an authenticator app on your phone, or it might send you like a SMS text message to your phone or to your email. And then you have to type in that OTP to get access to the system. The other thing that we can do is have an antivirus and anti-malware software. But I realize that antiviruses are going out of style. Like, I don't see a lot of computer systems with antiviruses nowadays, other than government computer systems. Is that for a reason? Do we feel more trustworthy of the stock virus protection on the Windows computers and the Apple computers? Or are we just not really thinking about, yeah. But it's important to have some form of virus protection on your system, because just the very act of surfing the web, you would encounter a lot of different things that might potentially impact our cybersecurity. So it's good to have something that can be like a layer of protection between you and the dark world out there. So what these antivirus and anti-malware software do, they detect and remove malicious software. They protect from viruses, spyware, and ransomware. And they ensure that you are protected from cyber attacks. So we have tools out there like Kaspersky, Avast, and Norton. I'm sure we've heard of some of those, especially Norton. Norton was the first one back in my day. And I know I keep saying terms that make me seem older, but I feel all I had. But Kaspersky is a really good one. If you Google right now, top antivirus software is Kaspersky. But what I can say about this one, if you listen to the sound of the name, it's a Russian software. So you kind of have to, weigh up the pros and cons. Do I really trust a Russian software with my personal data? But I guess no matter which way you go, you have to have a degree of trust. Now, when you have these antivirus software, and this is a recurring theme, you have to ensure that you regularly update it, because these software, they have patches that give them the latest threats out there. And they won't be able to protect you from the latest threats, because you know that cybersecurity is ever evolving. The hackers are getting better and better and using different means. So it's important to update your antivirus software to deal with these modern attacks. Now, Wi-Fi, this is another hot one. Wi-Fi is kind of a double-edged sword. Now, how many times we go to the airport or a cafe or Burger King, those who have been to Burger King or those who have been to KFC. I know some of us have been to KFC for the year. The year almost finished, and I'm sure most of us may have been through Antigua. I know they say when Montserrat go to Antigua, they bring back some KFC. But when you connect to the public Wi-Fi, you're opening up your computer for attacks from hackers. So you have to remember that when a Wi-Fi doesn't have password, typically that connection is unencrypted, meaning that they can use software or tools like man-in-the-middle software to kind of intercept your data. So if you're on your computer and you're logging into your bank and use your login and your password, they can intercept that information. So it's important to have some kind of mechanism to encrypt your data going between your computer and the server. One of those tools are a VPN. Now, VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. It basically encrypts the data, making a secure connection even on unsecured Wi-Fi networks. So we have tools like NordVPN, ExpressVPN, CyberGhost. I'm sure we've heard about some of these. But in the event that you can't or you don't have a VPN installed on your computer and you're connecting to a public network, I would urge you not to do things that require you entering sensitive data. If you do have to do those kind of things, if you have data, I would recommend using your data connection instead of your public Wi-Fi connection. One of the other things that we can do is make sure that the website that we're using has HTTPS rather than HTTP. Anybody could tell me what the difference is? I heard somebody say. Right, so the answer is here at the front. So the S means secure. So HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And if the S is attached to it, that means it's secure. That means that the data going between your computer and the endpoint is encrypted. How you note that a computer has, our easy way to identify it is that little green or gray padlock when you're on your internet browser and you look at the domain name at the top. When you see the green padlock, that means that that site is secured with HTTPS connection. So in 2016, researchers found that Starbucks free Wi-Fi was vulnerable to hacking. Attackers used something that, remember I spoke about earlier, the man-in-the-middle attacks, to intercept user credentials, password, and personal information. Many users, this article states hundreds of thousands of users unknowingly enter their details when they're using the free Wi-Fi, putting their security at risk. So we see how important it is to utilize these tools to protect ourselves. Now, how can we be safer online? The thing is, as I said, humans are the weakest link. So we kind of have to be skeptical of everything. Don't be so trusting. Think before you click. Be cautious of the links in emails and messages. Check the sender details. Remember the email that we read earlier. Stay updated. Make sure that your device is updated, and you'd realize that this is a recurrent theme, and that's because of how important it is. If you can, make sure that your device has some kind of lock on it, whether it's a PIN or a fingerprint or some other biometric or password. Of course, we also have to stay alert. Now, it'd be good if we consistently monitor our banking accounts. Most of us use Bank of Montserrat, so maybe you can log in once a week to make sure that everything is how it should be. Make sure that nobody is deducting, what did you say, 500 US from your account. Keep alerts on. Some of these tools that we use and applications that we use have done some of the work to make it easy for us. Like, for example, Microsoft and Google that sends us alerts when suspicious people try to access our account. So you might get an email saying that a computer at this location attempted to log into your account at such and such time from such and such IP. So it's important to take that seriously, especially if you're not aware of that kind of transaction. And if you're not, make sure that you report it to them and change your password. The other important thing is to securely dispose of data. Now, you might see here, I say shred physical documents. I might be like, physical documents, what does that have to do with cybersecurity? A lot of times we have details on those physical documents that can be used to threaten our cybersecurity or cyber safety. For example, I might have a document with my banking details on it. No, you don't want to leave that lying around for anybody to just walk on your desk and collect. You'd want to shred that and make sure that it's disposed of securely. Also, for your digital stuff, you can use tools like Eraser or CC Cleaner to permanently delete the digital files. Now, when you delete something from your computer, even if you enter it from your recycle bin, it's not completely deleted. That's why you have software out there that can restore those permanently deleted documents. So it's important that you use a tool, especially if you know it's something that you want permanently deleted. And of course, I'm not condoning any kind of crime or anything like that. I know that there's some police officers and FIU personnel in the building. But, there are certain things that we need permanently deleted. That's completely legal. It's important to use these tools. Also, it's important to stay educated. Follow the latest cybersecurity trends, and there are blogs like staysafeonline.org that you can use. Now, somebody met me while I was walking up and asked me about RFID wallets. As far as I know, it's not something that is, or those scams where persons just walk up to you and scan your credit card. That's something that happens very rarely. So I just want to kind of dispel that rumor. It's not something that happens a lot. And most of the cards have their own protections against it. They don't allow the transaction to go through if you don't have the context of the transaction. So if they don't see that this particular building, this particular vendor is charging you this amount for whatever, they wouldn't allow the transaction to go through. And most of the credit cards have their RFID blockers as well. However, if you do still feel unsafe and want to be absolutely sure, there are RFID blocking wallets out there that you can purchase, of course, for a premium and a regular wallet. Now, this one is for my parents and my guardians out there. How do I safeguard my children or my family members, especially when it comes to them browsing around on social media? As I said, it's a cold world out there. There are persons out there who don't necessarily have the best intentions. Of course, all of these social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, etc., they have their privacy settings. Most of them offer customizable privacy settings to control who can see your posts. And it's important that we do monitor who can see our children's posts. And it's important that we ourselves monitor our children's posts, because sometimes they're not doing things that we would condone. You could also set your social account to private so that everybody can follow your child or anybody can follow you. Reporting and blocking features. These platforms provide tools that you can use to report certain things. For example, if you see a strange user impersonating somebody else. I remember a couple years ago when the previous premier was in, I got a Facebook request from somebody who was supposedly him. And it asked me to send some information to him. And in return, he'd send me $10,000. And he had the exact same profile picture, exact same name. So if you're not careful, you can listen to these spoofing accounts. So you kind of have to, use your discretion and your intelligence to know that certain things are just too good to be true. Also, you have monitoring and parental controls. There are a lot of softwares out there like Bark and NetNanny that have parental control features that you can kind of monitor what your child is doing. And of course, there are resources out there such as Think that provide tips for youth on how to identify and handle online grooming attempts. Now, as a small business, how do I protect myself? The first and most important thing is to train both yourself and your team members. If you can, conduct regular workshops on cybersecurity awareness. Teach employees to spot phishing attempts and handle data responsibly. As I kept saying before, users are the weakest parts of any system. So you kind of have to spread the awareness and train as much as possible. Limit access. Use role-based access controls to ensure authorized personnel access sensitive data. And most of us would have or currently work for the government of Montserrat, so we kind of have an idea of what role-based access is. The director can't access certain things that a clerical officer can access, etc., etc. Now, this is a very, very, very hot one. And I've spoken about this on multiple occasions before, but how does AI impact your cybersecurity? AI-powered cyber attacks cyber attackers use AI to develop smarter malware that can adapt to defenses and avoid detection. Now, AI is one thing that is rapidly developing, and unfortunately, we can't really keep up with the development. The creation of realistic deep fake videos. Everybody ever heard of deep faking? You ever see those videos on Facebook or YouTube where like Morgan Freeman gave a speech, but when you really check it, it's not really real. Morgan Freeman is an AI representation of Morgan Freeman? Right, so those are deep fakes. And I recall one situation where, I think it's in Hong Kong, where a particular person had a board meeting, a virtual board meeting, and he thought he was having the virtual board meeting with all of his board members. And somebody in the board members one of the board members, I think the director of the board, or who he thought was the director of the board, suggested to wire $25 million to a particular account. And he, thinking that he was the board director, said, okay, sure, I'm following my directive. And he transferred that money. Unfortunately, he lost his job, but, how can you really be blamed for a situation like that? You just really have to try to be aware and continue training on cybersecurity so you know that, okay, this sounds a bit strange. My director doesn't normally say these kind of things, and he probably wouldn't use this kind of method to get me to wire that kind of money. So these kind of threats are real, and with AI, it's getting more and more easily. It's becoming more relevant to us. Social engineering. Basically, the AI tools sit on our system, learn our personal, or sit on our social media, learn how we behave, so that they can send personalized emails to us. So before, when we were saying that we have been receiving generic emails during those phishing attacks that don't address us directly, these through social engineering now, they are sending us very, very, very customized emails. So I remember maybe 7 months ago, I got an email saying that my holiday was approved, and I indeed applied for a holiday. So, if I wasn't careful, I could have fallen victim to that phishing, and it addressed me directly, and it said it came from whoever, the same person that I sent my holiday request to. So, it's getting scary. And, there are other tools out there that we willingly give away our data to. How many of us use a tool called ChatGPT? None of us use it? ChatGPT is a very useful tool, but you have to be careful. And as someone who is passionate about academic learning, you kind of have to be careful on that front too, that you don't dull your skills using ChatGPT. But sometimes we copy and paste wholesale some things that we want to use. For example, we might have an email with the name of our director, the name of the permanent secretary or the minister in it, and we copy and paste it directly into ChatGPT. Now, when you put it there, ChatGPT automatically has ownership of that data. So when you're using ChatGPT, if you read the fine print, and sometimes we don't really read the fine print, but it's important that we do. It's important that we do. It tells us that we are willingly giving our data to ChatGPT. If you want to use this service, you're willingly giving your data to it so that it can learn how to better answer your questions and better answer other persons. And what about on the other end? AI-powered tools like intrusion detection systems can analyze vast amounts of network data in real time, identifying abnormal patterns indicative of a cyber attack. So just like how we have AI-powered tools that can attack us, we have AI-powered tools that can protect us. An example of such AI tool is a software called Darktrace. Now, this is more of a wider scale software and is mainly used in like larger organizations or government institutions. But it's a very powerful AI tool that can scan your entire network and pick up abnormal patterns. For example, if somebody sends an email that they're not accustomed to sending, the Darktrace would flag something like that. And of course, software like Darktrace can automatically respond to attacks, such as isolating compromised systems or blocking suspicious IPs without waiting for human intervention. Because really and truly, when we get attacks, the time matters. You have to respond in a timely manner. And sometimes we assume we might be home on a Friday. And attackers love to attack you on a Friday, where you're at the pub or you're down by Summer Breeze having a drink. They attack you then. Also, AI is using a lot of our biometric authentication to ensure that it's us who are accessing that particular system. The problem is that the cost of some of these AI-powered tools are very high, and it's a lot easier or a lot cheaper to get tools to attack persons. And again, I'm not encouraging anybody to invest in any AI-powered tool to attack anybody, but it's cheaper to invest in an AI-powered tool to attack than to defend. So we as governments, we as a nation, we kind of have to try to make it more accessible so that we can have a more safer internet. Now, I've had a short, or maybe not so short, presentation, and these are the key takeaways. Use strong, unique passwords and two-factor authentication. You have to be smart, avoid clicking on suspicious links or using public Wi-Fi without a VPN. And again, the important thing, don't forget to update your software and back up your data. And that's especially important for government institutions and business. Make sure you have a backup plan in place so that if something happens, unfortunately, you can roll back to whatever backup you have. Also, awareness is important, so share your knowledge and keep your colleagues up to date with the latest trends in cybersecurity. Now, I have a challenge, and this challenge is really for the youth. And as digital natives, you, the youth, have grown up surrounded by technology. You are more connected, informed, and tech-savvy than any generation before. With this, you have the responsibility, and it's a great responsibility, to protect not only yourselves, but your peers and your communities online. Cybersecurity threats are evolving daily, and your proactive approach and actions can make a significant difference in creating a safer digital world. You need to be the hero. But I also note that we have 2 honorable ministers in the building. So I also want to issue a challenge to you to not only to, focus on awareness campaigns, but also continue to develop the policies that focus on cybersecurity so that we as a nation and we as a region can be more safe and secure online. Because when one person is affected, all of us are affected in one way or the other. And I thank you very much. This brings me to the end of my presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I'm learning a lot here tonight. Are we? Good. Now, our next presenter, we have in our presence Mr. Kasim Belingi. Kasim Belingi was enlisted to the Royal Montserrat Police Service, RMPS, on the 27th August 2018 as a police constable. In 2019, he was attached to the Criminal Investigation Department, then subsequently to the Digital Forensic Department within the RMPS. Officer Belingi has over 5 years' experience in the field of digital forensics and recently acted in the role of Sergeant of the Digital Forensic Department. 2 of his professional trainings are Digital Forensic Analysis Seizure and Cyber Investigation Digital Footprints with the National White Collar Crime Center, NW3C, and Bureau of Justice Assistance, U.S. Department of Justice, BJA. Officer Belingi is a God-fearing, honest, and trustworthy individual who loves music and sports. He's a Christian drummer for over 15 years and considers himself to be a bowling all-rounder in the sport of cricket. Tonight, we've had a lot of information as to how to protect ourselves, and we thought it would be interesting enough for us to look at how the hackers, those people who some of us have been victims of, or hopefully leaving here tonight, we will learn how to protect ourselves. So we wanted to know, why do people do these sort of things, right? Because we know that there's good people and there's bad people, and as our presenters had showed us, it's a billion-dollar industry doing these scams. So we asked Mr. Belingi to just give us a synopsis as to just try to understand what goes on in the mind of a hacker. We wanted him to look into how hackers operate, including their insights into how they select their victims and execute their strategies. And hopefully with the information that he will bring to us, we will hopefully protect ourselves a lot better. Mr. Balingi, ladies and gentlemen.
Good night to everyone. Adopting the protocol already established. My task here is, what I anticipate is everybody is seeing me as the bad guy. So I'm supposed to tell you what the bad guys do. But there are different types of hackers. There are good hackers and there are bad hackers. Generally, there are three characteristics or three different groups, major groups of hackers. You have white cap hackers, black cap hackers, and gray cap hackers. Now, the white cap hackers are the good guys. White cap hackers and black cap hackers do the same things, but for different reasons. So the white cap hackers are the persons or the hackers who would come to your organization, for example, let's say the government of Montserrat. They come and they would hack into the system, the government system, but their intention is to see what are the weak areas that a black cap hacker would use to get into your system. They would tell you what those areas are and how you can fix those areas. While the black cap hacker would not come to your business. He would stay from wherever he is, using different protection or hiding himself in the network away from you using VPNs, etc., these type of things, so that you won't be able to find him. And he would hack into your system, use those vulnerabilities, and then lock your stuff away from you, ask you to pay him for it. So they have malicious intent. Now, the gray cap hackers are in between these two. So the gray cap hackers sometimes do it with good intent, and there are other times when they would act maliciously. So those are the different types of hackers. Now, the mind of a hacker, if I use myself as an example, let's say that I am a hacker, what I would want you to do is not listen to everything that was said before. So I would want you to just, as soon as something comes to you, you keep it secretive, you try to keep all the funds for yourself, you don't question anybody else. So, for example, one scenario, I know Fernandez would have mentioned before that you would see emails that are easy to spot, or they might have suspicious areas. And it was mentioned in the last presentation that due to AI and the advances in technology, these emails are not so easily for you to differentiate or for you to see, right? There's still areas that you could use to identify these things. So, for example, you have an email, we saw an email before, that you could see that this is not real, this is fake. Using with the use of ChatGPT and also users putting all of their information online, it's easy for a black cap hacker to personalize something to you. If, let's say, for example, I'm a black cap hacker, one thing that I could do is, for example, I could go to the airport and just leave a flash drive. You would see it as just a flash drive. But what I would leave is actually what the computer would read. It would not see it as a USB, it would see it as a keyboard. So the flash drive would contain a payload, that's a software, right, that writes information to your system. So when I leave this at the airport, somebody sees this flash drive. Oh, somebody forget the flash drive. I wonder what's on it. You take it and connect it to their computer. From you connect it to your computer, that executes the payload that is on it. And I start pulling information from your computer, right? That's one method. the other personalized way that hackers operate, Fernandez mentioned WhatsApp scams and these type of things. Before, it used to be far-fetched. Now they're making it personal. So he made mention of something with the previous premier, right? What we've experienced in Montserrat recently is personalized WhatsApp targeted scams. So during the election period, what the hackers did, they did research on the environment on Montserrat. What they would normally do is hacks that they would have done in different areas, they would try them in different areas. So WhatsApp scammings were, let's say in the UK or somewhere else, they would have done that there and the public was educated about it. So it no longer works in the US or in the UK. So they try it in the Caribbean. And because the Caribbean may not have been informed about it, people fall victim to it. So you would have seen a WhatsApp message from somebody that you have saved in your contacts asking you for funds, right? Now, in order for a hacker to do something like this, what I would need to do, for example, let's say I'm using the Panelist. I want to access Fernandez's WhatsApp account, right? And I want to send a WhatsApp message now to the other panelists requesting funds as portraying myself to be Fernandez. What I have to do first of all is I have to hack Fernandez's WhatsApp account. Now, because of the security protocols, thanks to the white cap hackers and these type of people, the cybersecurity and people who put these policies and things in place, in order for me to do that, Fernandez would have two-factor authentication active on his WhatsApp account. So I would send, whether it's a message, a WhatsApp message to him, requesting, or I might even call him directly and ask him for the verification code that would have come to his phone. Because in order for me to access his WhatsApp number, I need that verification to input on the device that I'm using. Because when you set up WhatsApp, you put in the number. After you put the number in, it would ask you, it would send you a code via text message, or they could call you and give you the code. I would need access to that code in order to gain access to his WhatsApp account. If I get that information and I have access to his account, I could then message his entire WhatsApp contacts. Send a broadcast message asking for funds. As a hacker, they send these things out and hoping that somebody fall victim to it. And if you send funds to them, they will continue asking for funds, asking for funds. Now, what hackers don't want you to do is reach out to the person or inquire. So the best practice, or what you should do if you receive a WhatsApp like this from somebody, is reach out to the person using a different means. So they WhatsApp you, asking you to send funds to them. You call the person directly. I just got a WhatsApp message from you. You're asking for funds. Is everything all right? Hackers don't want you to do these things. But if you do these things, you would basically undermine their operation or what they're trying to, the outcome they're trying to get or achieve. Now, the two-factor authentication and also the policies, these are very good practices. The reason why I say they're good practices is these policies are put in place to protect you or to protect your organization. If the employees or if your family abide by these things, it's a second protection against hacking and hackers. the gray cap hackers sometimes assist the good guys, and other times they assist the bad guys. So they play the role of the malicious, where they ask for funds, and other times they don't do that. As police officers, one example that we had from the recent WhatsApp scamming, sadly, somebody actually fall victim to it. And the main reason why that person fell victim to it was because they did not inquire. If a relative or a friend, somebody that you know is asking you for funds, if they're doing something that is not normal, the advice is that you reach out to that person using a different, separate method, inquire if they're all right, to verify if it's true or not. Another thing is, as was alluded to before, don't share your personal information. If somebody asks you for passwords via the bank and these type of places will not ask you for your social security via a WhatsApp message. That's against their policies. And they should have your information already. So I believe that's me covering the mind of a hacker. And I will now turn over to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Balinji. Well, this is a time that we could ask any type of questions. Do we have any questions coming from the audience? Please feel free. We've heard a lot of information today, some that we know and some that we did not know. And hopefully we will like to ask our panelists anything at all. While we are thinking of questions, I think I can ask a question, may I? Okay. In terms of scam awareness and prevention, can any one of you elaborate on how scammers exploit emerging technologies like AI that we spoke about or deep fakes to make their scams more convincing?
Okay, so as we were speaking, we mentioned about the scammers becoming more knowledgeable, and as Nish mentioned, the AI tool ChatGPT, it could be used to learn the way someone speak or the way someone communicates. So one of the ways scammers could use these technologies by using it to come up with possible questions or response to you as you reply to them. You might ask them a question. Let's say it's a scam related to the Samsung director. So you might ask them a question. What they could do is they could possibly just put that question into ChatGPT, get a response that they would copy and paste back to you. And, they could keep a conversation going fluently by just asking ChatGPT for a response or how they would respond to a question. So this is a way that they could use the AI tool to actually be better at what they do. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Mr. Brown, you wanted to add to that?
Right, so added to that, I would have mentioned earlier in my presentation that, the average time that a hacker sits on your system or for you to get rid of a intrusion on your system is 9.5 months. So a lot of times these hackers use AI-powered tools to just sit on your system and learn your behavioral patterns. And, we see a lot of personalized emails now where these hackers sound extremely similar to the person that they're spoofing. For example, somebody might impersonate me, and they know that I am going on holiday in January. They might say that in the email, they might say, I'm going on holiday in January, but I need certain expenses covered, or I might need per diem. So I send an email to the office of the premier. And, if you don't have good policies in place, you might send that money to that person. So it's important that we have these policies in place so that, no one person can make a decision, firstly. And secondly, we verify that the person who is sending the email is who he says he is.
Okay, thank you so much. Another question is, Mr. Brown? Oh, sure. Mr. Belingi? Sure.
Hello? Yeah, as was alluded to by both panelists, what I would like to add is the importance of the policies being implemented. Because if the policies are set and they're not implemented, it defeats the purpose. So they have to be implemented as well. Employees have to follow the policies to prevent the hackers from using the AIs to get their outcome.
Okay, thank you all for answering that question. We have an audience member who would like to ask a question. Please stand. Okay.
Thank you for your talks. I had a question about the use of facial recognition and fingerprints. So I really struggle with using that because I feel like it's a very specific aspect of my data, and sometimes I worry that that could actually be taken from scammers. So have you ever experienced a situation where that's been the case, and how do we protect ourselves from that as well? Thank you.
Any one of you gentlemen?
I've never encountered any situation where where a scammer may have used like the biodata that you may use on your phone. It's something I use most of the time. I think sometimes it's the most secure way, because if you don't use what you are, you would have to use something that you know. So it might be a password that you might have to know, but I've never encountered any situation where scammers use your photo or your bio feature to use it to access anything else, because it's a situation where if they're accessing something that you use your biometric to access, they would have to have the device, which you already have some sort of layer. You always have a device in your home or in your pocket. So they would have to have your device to access it or access your applications using your biodata. I've never heard of any scams in relation to biometrics. I'm not sure if Nesh have anything to say.
Well, it's important to note that every piece of software that you use would require a degree of trust. Sometimes we are too trusting, and we do put a lot of our data online, and we do, allow these companies to hold our data somewhat at ransom. But we do require a certain degree of trust, and I can say that many of these softwares, they do have the policies in place to prevent theft of biometric data. That's something that the different global organizations take very seriously. And, they wouldn't want a scandal on their hands with persons stealing your biometric data. Also, there are certain biometrics that are more secure than others. For example, your fingerprint would be very, very difficult to duplicate, if not impossible. So like Mr. Fernandez said, that they would need your device, but not only just your device, they would need your fingerprint as well. So they would have to physically come to you and press your finger on the device in order to get your information. I haven't heard of any way of duplicating digitally your fingerprint. I'm not sure if there's a way out there, I can't say that for sure, but I for sure haven't heard of it.
Okay, to add to that, for example, I'll just use a simple example. When you're setting up your cell phone, the fingerprint is not the primary passcode. It's a secondary. So your biometrics is a secondary. The main passcode, even there are times when after you do your fingerprint, let's say you're using WhatsApp web, for example, and you want to link your WhatsApp web to view it on a computer. They might ask you, well, for my device, it would ask me to use my fingerprint, right? There are other times I have to unlock my device, first of all, for this to be done. So the fingerprints is a secondary, not the primary. So the PIN code is the primary. And it's not a case where, because the hackers are not in person, it's a digital thing. It's not, I haven't experienced anything like that. And the possibility of it, I'm not saying it's not possible because of the way that technology is right now. I've seen cases before where some trainings where your police would normally lift prints, for example, to do run against. So it's possible to lift a print from somewhere, right? So I'm not saying it's impossible for it to be done, but I've never heard of it.
I have another question. I know that Mr. Brown spoke about the importance of the antiviruses. So personally, for example, I would utilize the free trials of the antiviruses, like the Nortons. And then, that has an expiration date. And then they would ask you to pay using a credit card or debit card for extending the service. And I wouldn't do it because I would think I don't want to put my credit card number on there. So what are some additional ways that, because they're always upgrading as well, but what are some additional ways that one can protect themselves other than investing or subscribing to an antivirus system, if anything?
Well, so your computer by default has virus protection.
Yes.
There's a software in your computer, if you're using a Windows computer, called Windows Defender. Windows Defender has progressed significantly over the years to deal with a lot of different attacks. But again, you have to keep updating it, making sure that it's up to date. So that's part of the reason why you've seen a decrease in virus protectors on systems, because these in-house or on-machine softwares have gotten better. That being said, it's still not as good yet as specialized software like Kaspersky or Norton and so on. However, the different methods that we've given so far, like not clicking on links and downloading certain things, or not picking up a USB and plugging it into your computer, these are things that help to keep you safe despite not having a virus protector. And as I said before, we are normally the weak link. You hardly ever see hacks, well, I don't personally see hacks that happen through a failure of the software, but more so a failure of the user. That's something that I was contemplating putting in my presentation about the USB, because that's something that happens more often than you think, where we find a USB randomly, and we are curious, naturally as humans, so we plug it in our system, and then, as Officer Billinger said, it puts a payload on our computer. Sometimes our computer can see it as a keyboard, and it can execute certain scripts on your computer. Also, we might be using a common USB throughout our organization, and we're plugging it in from laptop to laptop to computer to computer to computer. As one of those devices are infected, and we continually pass it on throughout the network. So, it's just about staying safe and knowing the different mechanisms and tools to keep ourselves safe, and not, try to be skeptical of everything. Assume that somebody is trying to do the worst before you trust them, digitally speaking. So, it's just about staying safe. So it's not mandatory for you to have a virus protector on your system. It is recommended, but it's not mandatory. And as I said, the Windows Defender has gotten very good over the years.
Okay, thank you. Officer Billingsley spoke about people overseas, like in the United States or the UK, being educated more rapidly than people in the Caribbean, right? Per person. So like you said, they would start the scams, and then they're realizing, oh, people are catching on, so it's not working anymore, so let us branch out a little bit. So I wanted to ask, are there any scams particularly prevalent in the Caribbean or Montserrat, because this is where we live, that one should especially be wary of? I know we talked about the one for the monies and, that individual wanted to be a little bit selfish. You feel a little sorry, but still they wanted to be a little bit selfish to keep the funds for themselves. But can you expound on that a little bit for us?
So the one that we've seen recently a lot is the WhatsApp, where as I made mention to, during the election period, the scam actually involved a specific particular party that was actually running for election. So they would mention that it was a part of their campaign and stuff like that. So it changes as well too. It's based on what's happening in the environment. The hackers would then basically tailor it to what is happening. Mm-hmm. What I to clarify a little bit on what I said in relation to the US and the UK is, because of these countries being so large or so vast, the advance in technology there, most of the times the threats or the schemes that we're seeing happening in the Caribbean would have more than likely happened or started in these places. So there are communities, like for cybersecurity investigators, like for myself, that we're a part of, where this information is shared. So what they're experiencing is shared among the community so that it's worldwide and it's not just for them, so that this information could also be shared to the Caribbean as well. What is happening now is one of the good steps going forward, sharing of information.
Okay.
Just to add to what Billing just said, based on my presentation, I would have selected the 3 most prevalent type of scams in Montserrat that we might be vulnerable to or fall victim to, and they are phishing. And it comes in a lot of different forms. I've seen persons receive email saying that their laptop was open, and then the scammer or the person who's sending the email say that they have obscene photographs of them. Now, if you have your laptop on your table and your laptop is up, the webcam is there. So you might believe this because it's a possibility that you might walk in front of it while you're undressed or so. So these type of phishing emails will come. Persons might fall victim to them. I've dealt with one where somebody has been blackmailed. And the next one was investment. Persons would start investment stuff, such as like you invest, let me say 500 US, and then within 3 weeks, you get a return of 4,000 US or so if you bring 2 persons. Mm-hmm. Kind of like a pyramid scheme.
Yes.
So the investment one is a very popular one as well. And as Bilinji mentioned, these things tend to change as the season change, and they start from a bigger country, then they come down to the Caribbean, etc. The next one is the lottery scamming, and also, other than the lottery scamming, there's email account compromise, where the interception of emails are done, and while they're trying to complete a transaction, the emails are intercepted, and then you might receive financial information for a wire transfer, to send off a wire transfer, and you might receive the incorrect one. So we've dealt with cases where monies are sent, and it's thousands, so it might be like 160,000, 25,000 US, etc. And these monies are sent by accident because of their email accounts being compromised, and they receive fictitious banking detail from the incorrect email. As I mentioned, the email might be very similar, so it might be one digit that is different. So as Nish said, it's important that you pay attention to the email. So email compromise is one as well as the lottery scam. All right, and they come in different forms. Sometimes they say that you have a package that you need to clear with customs as well. So they come in lots of different forms. Yeah.
Another thing too, I would say that if one is in a financial situation of trying to get money for whatever the reason, investing the little bit that you do have, trying to get more, is never really a good idea. You're actually putting yourself in a deeper hole. Am I correct?
So yeah. So one of the things that, well, if I had more time, I would have said this. It's important that when you're investing, you invest what you could lose. All right. One of the things I've noticed that is whenever persons receive investment opportunities is that they invest their last. So if they have 800 US for the rent, then they would invest that 800 US and expect a return. Now, if you invest your last and you lose it, you're gonna be very depressed or very sad. So it's important to, if you're taking opportunity and you have some level of trust in the opportunity that is put before you, you ensure that you invest what you could afford to lose. If it's 50 US, 20 US, you invest that amount, but not your all or your loss.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we have to do as a community is we need to speak with each other more and not hide, because a lot of times we feel embarrassed that this has happened to me, because things happen to people who even consider themselves to be very intelligent. But I mean, it has happened to me before that I've purchased something and thinking it's from a reputable company, and I've gotten a little small package of a little jewelry or something, and that is not what I ordered, and it cost me a couple hundred US, but I had to learn. I just look at it like a learning experience, and the company looked like a reputable company, right? So we need to speak out a little more if we find that things are happening to us, and not be selfish, because sometimes we don't share information, and we have to shame the hackers, not ourselves, right? The last thing I want to ask is, how can community members work together to spread awareness and reduce vulnerability to scams?
I think community members could work together to reduce their vulnerability to scams by communicating with each other more. If they have an opportunity about investment or they win a lottery, etc., speak to somebody about it. Don't wait until it's too late to speak to someone. So it's very likely that if you speak to someone would have experienced it before, because it could be your first time you receive this message, but somebody close to you may have received this message before and they know how to react. So I think communication is very important. Speak to someone and try to seek some sort of advice or whether or not to go forward with it or whether or not to hold back. All right?
Yes, and other than that, it is forums like these that are very, very vital to spread awareness. And I'm happy that you've invited us to kind of engage with the community of Montserrat to try to add our little piece to that awareness campaign. But outside of that, you kind of have to take a each one tell one or each one teach one approach.
That's right.
Especially in our households. Now, for me, I help my mom a lot with stuff on her phone and so on. And if I see my mom going down a certain road, or like if I see my mom get a WhatsApp text message from somebody asking for a verification code, I would tell my mom that, hey, this might not be the person that you want to be listening to, or this might be a scam. So you kind of have to take that approach where you teach one, and hopefully that person that you teach teaches the next person. Hopefully my mom teaches her friend if she, she goes by her friend and she sees her friend experiencing the same situation.
Exactly.
And by that way, you have that kind of spread around the community. Other than that, you have different agencies, like, for example, the CARICOM Youth Ambassadors Co-op, or the Youth Parliament, or Rotarac or Rotary, any of those organizations. They have very powerful platforms that they can use to spread awareness. So it's important that we utilize them.
Okay. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was a wonderful evening. Oh, one other question, sorry. Yes, thank you.
Hello, I think it was Mr. Brown who advised us to be wary about public Wi-Fi. Do you consider the Wi-Fi they provide at the bank public Wi-Fi?
Yes, definitely. And that's definitely public Wi-Fi. Any Wi-Fi that you access without the utilization of a password or MAC address or anything like that is public Wi-Fi. And if you are typing in banking information, I would recommend that you have a VPN on your phone firstly. Or Well, yes, that's basically the suggestion. Make sure you have a VPN on your phone if you're utilizing a public Wi-Fi. I know that it might be tempting to carry out banking transactions in the bank on their Wi-Fi. However, a hacker can be utilizing that same network to intercept your private data. So I would recommend not trusting that network and use a VPN on your phone. And if you don't have one, there are free VPNs out there, like I believe Proton VPN has a free plan. And I believe NordVPN also has a free plan. So it's something that you can download easily. And if you are unaware, there's a lot of persons out there who are tech savvy. You can ask them for assistance to download these VPN services on your phone. But I would definitely not recommend using, or carrying out banking transactions, even if you're in a bank itself, on public Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Mr. Fernandez has a question for our audience. Go right ahead.
Has anyone been scammed before and would like to share their experience? Anybody? All right, so nobody have been scammed before.
I
ever?
have.
You have?
Yeah.
Can you share your experience?
Yeah, that's what I was saying before, that I went to
shared it?
purchase,
Oh.
yes.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. So nobody else been scammed before?
We could admit it. Hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the impersonation is very difficult for persons, because sometimes, like in the situation that you just mentioned, if somebody actually sent money, they tend to try to hold you accountable, although it wasn't you who sent them any message requesting the funds. Yes.
And, in terms of our seniors, Mr. Brown alluded to something. I think we need to let them know that there are people in the community that could assist them, because they're not that tech savvy. And a lot of times they may see things and they're vulnerable. So we want to also educate them to know that, ask your neighbors or your family, friends. Don't keep things to yourself. That's what empowers people who do bad, when you keep information to yourself and you don't speak up, right? I think it was an evening well spent, shall we say. I certainly learned a lot today. However, the week of activities, ICT activities, is not over. Tomorrow, November 28th, they have what is called Rep the Rock Day and Virtual Scavenger Hunt. It's actually 2 events. It's to celebrate Montserrat Pride with a fun social media campaign and an exciting online scavenger hunt. Show your love for the island and win amazing prizes. And all of us like to win amazing prizes, right? Okay, now we will have the vote of thanks.
Good evening once again, everyone. And just before I start the vote of thanks, just going back a little bit about asking for help, because we know not all of us are that tech savvy. Maybe there's a lot of information thrown at you tonight, downloading a VPN and such, and you're thinking to yourself, that sounds like a good idea, but how exactly, what are the steps to downloading it, getting installed? So in light of that, we're just throwing it out there that if you want to have some of these things done, maybe you're curious, maybe you want a little bit more information, feel free to contact the ICT unit. Our number is 491-2521 or 2522. That would be the number for the Ministry of Build at the moment. Once again, 491-2521 or 2522. You can call, ask for the ICT unit, and we'll provide you with a little bit more guidance if you have more questions, or maybe you even want someone to come around and say, help me with this, get this on my phone. That's available for you to do. As we bring this enlightening panel discussion to a close, it is my honor and privilege to extend our heartfelt thanks to all those who made this evening a success. First, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to our panelists. Mr. Karandri Fernandez for his invaluable insights on identifying cyber scams, and extending our thanks to the Montserrat Financial Intelligence Unit for supporting this initiative by allowing him to share his expertise with us tonight. Mr. Nish Brown for his practical advice on safeguarding sensitive information, and Mr. Kasim Belingi for his additional expertise to tonight's session as the point of view of a hacker. We are equally grateful to the Digital Forensic Department of the RMPS for their contribution in making Mr. Belingi's participation possible. To our esteemed moderator, Mrs. Van Dina Scintillary, your skillful facilitation ensured the conversation flowed seamlessly and remained engaging and impactful. Thank you for your thoughtful questions and for guiding tonight's session with such professionalism. We extend our heartfelt thanks to our attendees, making special mention of Honorable Veronica Dorset-Hector, Deputy Premier and Minister of Infrastructure, Labour, Transportation, Energy and Ecclesiastical Affairs, and also Honorable John P. Osborne, Minister of Agriculture, Lands, Housing, Environment and Sports, and all of our other attendees here tonight, both here in person and joining us virtually. Your presence and active participation tonight underscore the importance of these discussions, and we truly appreciate your support and engagement. Behind the scenes, this event would not have been possible without the dedicated efforts of our technical support team. iTech Montserrat, as well as our videographers, live stream partners, and advertisers, Mr. Philip Braid, Ms. Victoria Chalmers, GIU, and ZGB Radio Montserrat. Thank you for advertising the event, ensuring the seamless delivery of tonight's program, and extending its reach to those unable to be here in person. Special thanks go to the ICT unit and hardworking staff of the Ministry of Build for organizing and coordinating this important event as part of ICT Week 2024. Your commitment to educating and empowering the Montserrat community is deeply appreciated. To the staff of the Montserrat Cultural Center, thank you for providing this beautiful venue and for your assistance in ensuring the event ran smoothly. We must also acknowledge Ms. Jessica Sweeney of M&I Events for her exquisite decor, which added a touch of elegance and professionalism to this evening's proceedings. See decor in point behind me. Finally, thank you to all who contributed in ways big or small to making tonight a success. It is through collective effort that we can host events like these to inform, empower, and equip our community with confidence. Thank you, everyone, and have a safe and pleasant evening.